Welcome to The Explainer. There's this really strange contradiction right at the heart of politics, one we all kind of live with. It's that feeling you get when you think a law is just fundamentally wrong, but at the same time, you feel like you still have to obey it. So, how can both of those things possibly be true at the same time? Okay, let's dive right into a real world example to see what I mean. Think back to 2021 when President Biden proposed raising taxes on corporations and individuals. Now, a lot of opponents immediately slammed the plan, calling it unjust. But here's the really interesting part. You almost never heard those same critics argue that the government would be acting illegitimately if it actually passed the law and started collecting those taxes. See the split? They thought the law was unjust, but they still accepted the state's authority to enforce it as totally legitimate. And, this isn't just about taxes. Not at all. We see this exact same tension pop up in pretty much every big debate. We're talking healthcare, immigration, climate policy, you name it. It points to this deep, everyday puzzle that's sitting right at the very heart of our political lives. So why does this happen? Well, it turns out this tension exists because most of us, probably you included, hold three core beliefs about law and justice. They all sound perfectly reasonable on their own. The only catch? It's logically impossible for all three of them to be true at the same time. Okay, so what are these three beliefs that are causing all the trouble? Let's lay out the pieces of this puzzle one by one and see exactly where the conflict is. All right, first up, we believe that justice is number one. It's the top priority. The great political philosopher John Rawls put it perfectly. He said, justice is the first virtue of social institutions. Basically, the whole point of having laws and a government is first and foremost to be just. That's its main job. Okay, belief number two. And this one's just common sense, right? We believe that some of our laws are, well, unjust. I mean, in any real-world democracy, people are going to disagree, and we're bound to get some things wrong. No political system is perfect, so it's pretty much inevitable that some of its laws will be flawed or just plain unfair. And then there's the third piece of the puzzle, the one we started with. We tend to believe that even if a law is unjust, the state can still legitimately enforce it. We see police officers, judges, and tax collectors, and we generally accept they have the right to do their jobs, even if we totally disagree with the justice of the specific laws they're enforcing. And here's the puzzle, right? If justice is our absolute top priority, and we know for a fact some of our laws are unjust, how can it ever be legitimate to enforce them? It feels like a total contradiction. This is what political philosophers call the puzzle of legitimate injustice. And honestly, figuring it out is crucial to understanding what politics is even about. So how in the world do we solve this? Let's start our investigation with the prime suspect, a really powerful and intuitive view called justice first. Now, the justice first view solves the puzzle in a super direct way. It just takes that third belief we talked about and throws it right out the window. It says flat out, an unjust law can never be legitimate. So the crucial point here is that if a law is unjust, any official who enforces it is, by definition, acting wrongly, period. In this view, there's just no such thing as a legitimate injustice.
Okay, so how does the justice first view make its case? Well, its main argument is incredibly powerful, and it all comes down to a simple but really compelling analogy.
I want you to imagine you're doing something completely harmless in the privacy of your own home. Let's say you're in your backyard and you find some weird unknown weed that you enjoy smoking. You're not bothering a soul, just minding your own business. But then, your neighbors get together. They hold a little vote, and they decide they just don't like what you're doing. So they tell you, hey, we're going to break into your house, and we're going to take your stuff to make you stop. Now, that would be totally wrong, wouldn't it? I mean, a clear, unacceptable injustice. I'm right there. That's the core of the whole argument. The justice first view asks, if it's wrong for your neighbors to barge in and violate your rights, why does putting on a police uniform or working for the government suddenly make it okay? What kind of moral magic does a government paycheck have that can turn an unjust act into a legitimate one? It's a great question. I mean, that's a really powerful point, right? It almost feels like we've solved the puzzle. But just then, our investigation hits a major plot twist. The simple, clean logic of justice first runs headfirst into a huge obstacle, the problem of honest mistakes. Okay, let's walk through a little thought experiment. Imagine a murder has been committed. The police conduct an absolutely flawless investigation. They find a suspect, we'll call her Clara, and she's given a perfectly fair trial. The jury looks at all the evidence and, completely reasonably, concludes she's guilty. There's just one problem. She's innocent. The real killer was a genius and framed her perfectly. So Clara gets sent to prison for a crime she did not commit. This is, without a doubt, a terrible injustice. But here is the really tough question. Have the police, the jurors, and the judge acted impermissibly? Did they actually do anything wrong? I mean, really think about it. Everyone involved in the process did their job perfectly. They followed every single rule, they acted in good faith, and they made the most reasonable decision they possibly could based on the evidence they had. So can we really turn around and condemn them as wrongdoers? This right here is the deep challenge for the justice first view. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, enforcing an injustice isn't always wrong, especially when it's the outcome of a fair and just process. So it looks like our first and most obvious solution kind of falls apart when you really put it under the microscope. Justice first, for all its intuitive appeal, just can't seem to handle the messy complexities of a real-world legal system. The puzzle remains. And this leaves us right back with that core tension. If it's true that an unjust act can sometimes be legitimate, then what is it that gives it that mysterious power? Where does that legitimacy even come from? But on the other hand, if it can't be legitimate, as the justice first view insists, then how are we ever supposed to live together in a stable society when we all have different, deeply held and honestly conflicting ideas about what justice really is? It's a question that cuts right to the very heart of what politics is all about.